Ladies and gentlemen, the title is a little bit slight. It's the same. Economic impacts of potential EU forest carbon policies on the forest-based sector. I have to acknowledge three co-authors here. It's Dr. Marit Kallio from the Natural Resource Institute in Finland. It is Dr. Lisa Kjær from Tapio Limited, which is a large semi-government research institute in Finland, and Professor Risto Päivänen, also from the same institute, Tapio. Also, just to mention for you that when we talk about forest-based sector, we mean forest industry and forestry, and bioenergy based on wood. So it's a large sector. It's not only the forestry sector, but it's forest sector. Now, my presentation will be on four issues: objectives, methodology, specific assumptions we made under this preliminary research, and conclusions. We addressed the following question: what are likely economic impacts on the European forest sector and globally if harvest regulations for climate mitigation were introduced at country level in Europe? And this issue is a very high issue now in the European Union. Because of climate policy and the question how should land use be incorporated into Paris Agreement, but also more general into the climate policy level. So the Commission has put out a proposal on this, how to deal with that. I'll come back to that later on. And we went in and were curious to look on what are the impacts of those proposed policy. Now, if you are going to analyze this question, you need to analyze it consistently. You have to take into account at least the following factors: the forestry situation in each country, what is the sustainable harvest level in each of the EU countries, and also you who have been in Europe knows that it's big difference from the north to the south. You need to know the forest industry capacities and production costs, and the dependencies, competition between the industries for wood fiber. Because wood fiber is the essential thing here, and the various industries are competing. The pulp industry is competing with the bioenergy, wood-based bioenergy for fiber, and the sawnwood, the sawmilling, is the main demander for roundwood, and are those who can pay most. They pay about 2 to 3 times more for the fiber because they need higher quality than the others. So we need that interactions. And then we need, very much the trade of wood and forest industry products between regions. Inside the EU, of course, but between EU and very important forest sector regions like North America, like Russia, and not least South America. And we also need the demand for forest industry products in each of these regions, and then we need behavior of the various market actors, agents involved. Well, how did we manage this? We applied a global partial equilibrium forest sector model, EFI-GTM. EFI stands for European Forest Institute, and GTM for General Trade Model. It's probably the most advanced global forest sector model in use today, and I can just give you some brief account of it. The model simulates the development of the forest sector, forestry harvest and growth, and the trade and the production of various forest products based on economic theory of competitive markets. So we assume profit maximizing producers and utility maximizing forest owners. The model solution finds the prices and quantities which secure that markets for all products are in equilibrium in each year. That supply equals demand for each year, for each product in each country region, including trade, under pre-specified assumptions regarding demand and production costs for forest industry products, forest growth and sustainable harvest levels in each country. And the model is particularly suitable for what-if analysis of the impact of policy changes, like the one we are analyzing here regarding forest harvest constraints. So actually we run a base solution, then we do one change. We change the assumptions regarding the policy which are implemented by the EU, and then we see what are the differences over time on various important variables we are looking for. Now this model, a little bit more about that. It is divided in 57 regions, of which 31 are countries in Europe. So it's very detailed on Europe. Each main countries, not Luxembourg and the very small ones with very little forestry, but all the others are in as one region each. Then we have 26 other regions. Like Russia is divided in 2, North America is divided in 4, South America is divided in 3, and Asia, China is one region, and then the rest of Asia is one region. We have forest growth and harvest for each country. We have 20 final forest products, industry products, including 2 sawnwood, 4 type of boards, particle boards, and other type of boards, fiber boards, 8 paper and pulp, 8 paper and 4 bioenergy product types, all with country region specific demands and production costs. We have 16 what we call, these are final products. Then we have 16 intermediate products, including sawlogs, pulpwood, forest residues, sawmill chips, and residues. 3 types of chemical pulp. You know, pulp is producing the mass which goes into paper production. And 4 types of recycled paper. 5 log types, sawlog and pulpwood, divided on hardwood and softwood, plus the chips. And then production technologies, wood use and production costs per unit, specific for each of the above-mentioned products and country regions, and on 3 vintages for European countries. And then trade costs between each country region for each product, and then the assumption of profit maximizing producers, and predetermined economic growth for each region. So here are some references to previous studies where this model is more in detail described. Again, the point is that this is a rather detailed model. Now, a little bit more about specific assumptions and preliminary results. We compare future scenarios of the forest sector development. We have a baseline, as I mentioned, market-driven of the global forest sector, and then we put in a new run with the model, what we call a policy scenario. It's called limited. The first one is called base, and the policy scenario is limited. That means that we limit the harvest according to the policy proposed by the EU Commission. All the other factors are the same. Market-driven development, and the policy is included by the constraint harvest. Now, tricky here is of course the demand. It's based on economic growth, population growth, the need to substitute fossil-based raw material with renewables. That's the bioenergy, which is part of the climate policy. And here we are using results from a detailed global energy model, the VTT bioenergy model. And we took the scenario which they made where they produced so much energy and bioenergy for which was important in attaining the 2-degree global warming. So from that energy model, you get renewable energy demand in various types of renewables, like solar energy, like water, hydro, and all that is withdrawn, and then we came back to what is coming from wood-based bioenergy. So that is how we secure this 2-degree demand. So that is, the wood demanding for bioenergy is set exogenously aside. Then this sink policy, because the policy by the EU is driven by climate mitigation goals. And how did we include that? Well, as I mentioned, we include that by the harvest of longwood in the EU, Norway, my country, and Switzerland after 2020 is limited not to exceed average national levels of the harvest, average harvest during 2012, that period. So that is actually how we translated the policy of the EU into a constraint that you could not harvest in each country more than you have harvested on average in the 12 years period mentioned there. So, and how did we put it in? We put it in as a constraint. Of course, pulpwood, sawlogs, some of you know the difference between this. I will not go into this. Energy wood, all is included in the model. And then the results here. For a sector in the baseline, how was the baseline without this policy? How would it look like? Well, here you have the harvest in the EEA, that is the European Economic Area, which is actually EU, Norway, Switzerland, in this regard. Here we have the harvest. How will that develop in this area? Here is a 1 million cubic meter of harvest, and if we started here, we are here now 2015. Here, the last point here, you can see that on sawlogs we were harvesting 250 million cubic meter. Pulpwood a little bit less, 150. And here is all the roundwood, including household for fuel wood. Here, about 530 million cubic meters. Then the base, because of our assumptions regarding economic growth and population growth, we made these projections based on the assumptions for the scenario. So this is the base scenario actually, based on the assumptions we have made in the baseline. And you see it is a rather steady increase here. And the main driver is the economic growth and population growth. Here is also the other assumptions regarding sawnwood and plywood, chips from hardwood and pulpwood, paper and paperboard. You see the paper and paperboard is declining here actually, and it's a very interesting thing we observe. Actually, we have observed it for a decade or more, that the consumption of paper is declining, especially the newsprint, and it's a strong correlation to IT and people reading less newspaper and more computer IT-based information. Well, I'm not going into too much, just mention for you that this 2-degree targets from bioenergy gives this impact in the base. So 10 million in 2020, where we started this, we assume that the main bioenergy is coming in, and then you see in the base how it goes up to about 15 million cubic meter by 2030. Not very much compared to all the other uses here. But that is how this global energy model, the output for that model, gives as input to our model. Primary preliminary results of study. I have to mention that these are preliminary results because we are now in the phase of publishing a paper on this. So we are looking on the highlights. Changes in the forest sector if the EU countries comply with the assumed policy of limited harvest levels. And here you see the main results. Here is the base for all roundwood over bark. Here is when we take the policy being introduced by 2020 approximately, and then gradually, we don't put it in as a shock, but it's gradually up to 2025, so it's 5 years to implement it fully, from zero policy implementation to 100%, and then onwards. And you see here, and that is for all roundwood. Here is for sawlogs, which is the most valuable commodity from forest. And then here is for the pulpwood. And then you see the dotted line here. They are showing what will happen if the policy will be implemented. And the difference between the whole line and it's not dotted, what's it called in English? Dashed line is the impact of the policy. So you see here by 2030, to put it short, it will be about 120 million cubic meter difference, which is about 20 to 30% difference. And then you see the same picture on the sawlogs and the pulpwood. But mostly you can see the most important deduction is the sawlogs. Now what about the other industries involved here? Particle board, if you take here, this is particle board, OSB and MDF. You see it's a slight difference, not very much. Sawnwood and plywood, rather big difference. So that's where the main difference comes in. Regarding the pulp and paper industry, we see that chemical pulp would be the most, get a high reduction. Here we have billion ton of products of pulp and newsprint, so it's not cubic meter. You see here that the chemical pulp for packaging and also for textiles, in the assumption here regarding the demand growth, that will be significant. Printing and writing paper will decline even more because the prices are increased in the model. And the total paper and paperboard other than printing and writing will be suffering, but not so much as the other. Largest or biggest decline is in labor-intensive branches of forestry and sawnwood production in the EEA, European Economic Area. Decline there due to achieving the assumed forest sinking goal in base versus limited. You can see here. Here is in million ton or million cubic meter. in the year 2030. The decline is about 19% of long wood, minus 3.5% decline in paper and paperboard, not very much, but still significant in many respects. Chemical pulp, minus 15. Sawnwood and plywood, minus 13%, and mechanical boards, minus 8.8%. Now, what is happening here? We are reducing the production in the EU, but given the global demand, which of course is affected by prices, and we have price elasticities here, so that takes care of it. But what is happening is that because increased prices, because of this constraint, you get increased prices. So the global consumption declines some. But mostly is that we export to other regions the industry and the harvest. So you see here the first line. Yeah, I think this was. We can take this. You see here this line, this decline relative to the base. Then you see what happens in the rest of the world. This will be the production there, the increase in the rest of the world. We decline in Europe by 118 million cubic meter. Now the rest of the world increases by 93 million cubic meter. A little bit less, but still. So the total goes down by 25 million cubic meters. The same in paper and paperboard, and the same in chemical pulp, and the sawnwood and plywood, also the same picture. So the world production declines, but the decline is much higher in EU. And that leads to the leakage percent. How much is leaked out to, how much is leaked out from the EU area because of this policy? Well, that is this percentage here. 79% of what is reduced in the EU is leaked out to other countries. 64% of the paper and paperboard, chemical pulp 72%, and the sawnwood and plywood 79%. And I think here it's 85% on the mechanical boards. A significant leakage. We are exporting the jobs and the income and the value added to other countries. Now, which countries are these? And this is what's happening in 2030, according to the model results. You see here, 34% goes to the US, North America, 14% to Russia, that's of the harvest. Australia 2%, 8% in Asia, increase the harvest there, 39% to plantations in South America, approximately. Then, in addition, what's happening in Europe is, of course, that the industry is being kept alive by importing from the other countries of long wood. Because, you know, they have the capital invested, so they just have to cover their variable costs. And here you see the pie regarding how much the increased exports to the EU and the increased use by the forest industry in the rest of the world. It goes both to local use and to exports. Leakage takes place regardless of the chosen reference, and here are the percentages I mentioned. So we were playing around the sensitivity analysis. This was what was proposed by the Commission, and that was the leakage I was referring to. Now we took another average, because they haven't decided yet. It is up, it's coming to the European Parliament, I think, so it will be decided by at least in half a year's time. We took another reference, the average from 1990 to 2009, And you see it changed it only for the paper and paperboard, otherwise, and also for the chemical pulp. So these two would change, otherwise it's rather stable. Then we took the average 2016, 2015, and you see for raw wood it doesn't change very much. We are back again to the first one here. So the leakage, so that's the sort of sensitivity analysis. Conclusions. If implemented, harvest, forest industry production, and thereby also employment opportunities leak from the EU or the EEA to the rest of the world. Jobs will disappear from the labor-intensive mechanical forest industry, and in particular, and forestry throughout whole of Europe. Wood and wood-based products imports will increase. Decline in the EU production increases prices of forest products globally, and higher prices will be partly substituted by other materials, such as concrete and metal and plastics. The increased harvest in the rest of the world would reduce forest carbon sinks there. So this is the climate issue here. The increased harvest in the rest of the world would reduce forest carbon sink there significantly. And that was the motivation for the EU to put this as a climate policy. And I think also our results show that leakage takes place regardless of the chosen reference period. Thank you.